Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's program. Thank you so much for joining us here at Discover DSF, Parent Tips for Supporting Virtual Learning. We're starting just after 6 o'clock. It looks like we have a number of people tuning in, and we'll get started. First things first, I just want to welcome you again and express just how grateful I am to get to connect with you all this evening in this format. Ideally, we'd be doing this in another format, but we're making do as best we can and choosing to use our tools as wisely as we can. First things first, I want to introduce myself. My name is John Marshall. I have the great honor and privilege of serving as the principal of Douglas Freeman High School for another year. For those that are returning Freeman families, I want to say welcome back. It's great to start another school year with you. We're excited to do just that. And for those that are new to the Freeman family, welcome to the Freeman family. You've landed in an amazing place to grow and learn. And just like me, I hope you'll find that it's just a tremendous family environment and community to be a part of. I want to introduce who we're going to be working with this evening and then lay out some of the goals of tonight's program, followed by some logistics stuff as we get started. First things first, a couple of introductions. I've introduced myself, which you'll be, but tonight is not just about me, and primarily not about me. We're going to hear from the real experts, teachers and teacher leaders and other leaders in our building in just a few minutes. First of all, part of my administrative team who's with us this evening, Gilma Beverly Steele, Mrs. Steele, will be joining us this evening. As will our innovative learning coach, Miss Jessica Siokin, who has been keeping our school running with her knowledge of all things technical like this and of innovative teaching and learning. And of course, Miss Smith, Janet Smith, our Director of School Counseling, will be with us on the back end of our presentation as we have a panel discussion to answer your questions. And then we're privileged to once again be joined by Freeman parent, Dr. Matt Bitsko, the founder and director of Summit Emotional Health, who's going to bring kind of the adolescent psychology angle and aspect to our conversations later this evening, knowing how important mental health is in this moment for our children. I also want you to turn your attention to your screen, which you should be. We should be sharing a screen right now to point out some of the teacher leaders who are going to be presenting this evening. These teacher leaders are some of the best and brightest in our building, part of the most amazing staff of teachers that I believe has ever been assembled. But this particular group who's with us today took it upon themselves to see a need, to jump on it, and to lead, something I'm just so proud of and so impressed by that happens in our building all the time. They recognized that this year is going to be a challenge, but that we have the tools around us, both in our building and in our community, to meet this challenge. And so they realized that the partnership that must be formed between school and home in order to meet the challenge. So they're going to bring with them this evening some kind of tips, tricks, and their expertise to the table to try and build this partnership and get the dialogue started. And that brings us to kind of the goals of the evening. You see several listed there, just like any lesson, we want to kind of list our objectives. But really that boils down to this. We want to make sure we're establishing a partnership between school and community like we've never seen before. Freeman is blessed to have such a strong partnership, whether it's our boosters organizations, our PTSA, just the involvement of the community in the school. I mentioned that in my message this weekend. We're really going to put that to the test this year because we're going to have to work hand in hand in order to meet the goals that we have for our students. And tonight is about establishing that partnership and opening a dialogue continuing a dialogue between both sides. We do feel that we as educators have some expertise to share, things that we've learned sometimes the hard way about how to motivate our students, how to push them forward, how to create a good learning environment. We feel like we have that expertise, and we're going to try and pass that along to you all this evening. But at the same time, throughout this conversation, we want to hear from you all because we know that how much that you all bring to the table as far as how much we know our adolescents and how well we know our students, and feedback that you can provide us on what it's like to be on the other end of a virtual learning experience. Another goal I have for this evening, to be really honest with you, is to some reassurance that we have the tools to meet this challenge. It's likely you're going to hear some things in our presentation tonight that you already knew, right? You're going to say, oh, I already knew that. That's great. It's very likely you're going to hear some new tips and tricks that'll add to that repertoire of skills that's going to be used this year. But as you hear things that you already know, take stock that we have the tools and skills and knowledge to do this as a team. And hopefully we walk out of here with some new stuff, but also going, hey, I was already aware of much of that, and we're more ready than we think we are. There's this unknown thing, that year of, the first 9 weeks of virtual learning, this unknown thing out there. Well, tonight's a little bit about reassuring all of us that we have a lot of those answers already, and reassuring us that we can, as a Freeman family, meet this challenge. And as a Freeman family, we've got this. We've got to work together, and tonight's all about that. Talk about a little bit of a logistics for this evening. You're going to see a lot of faces kind of in and out of your screen on this kind of YouTube stream of our Zoom chat. So I'll disappear, and then some other experts will come in, and then we'll all kind of come together at the end for a panel discussion. We are recording this so that it can be broadcast later. So if your technology fails, or if you've got to go pick up dinner or something like that, we're going to post it as soon as we can after it's over, so you can watch it asynchronously after our presentation is over. And then we do want this to be interactive. So as you have questions, rather than have a Zoom meeting with 250 people where it's hard to communicate and we might lose some clarity, we're going to send those questions to the questions form, which might be located right underneath your screen, my picture right now, or it could be back at dsf.com, atdsf.com. Submit as many questions as you want. Those are going to be answered during the panel discussion at the end. That can happen. We've got a dozen or so far, but it also can happen in real time. If I say something, or if the next person says something, jot your question down real quick, send it in. But of course, we can answer those during the panel as well. We're going to try and get to all those questions this evening, or post kind of from frequently asked questions later. So please use that question form. We want to hear from you guys. So that's the plan for this evening. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to the real teaching and learning experts, our teacher leaders, led by Ms. Jamie Bargo, who's going to take over at this time. Take it away, Jamie.
Hi, guys. Thanks for being here. Really excited about this session, and hope that you all are able to gain some helpful insights to what we do every day in the classroom. So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of what Mr. Marshall was saying about that parent-teacher partnership. Just remember, we're all in this together. That concept of the Freeman family is really going to come into play at this point, right? And just know that we're here to help in whatever capacity needed. As teachers are planning for the school year, we're really focusing on three big things. First is communication. So communication during this time is going to increase. You're going to hear from your teachers more, which is, I think, a great thing. The other thing is organization. We're going to be working on a cohesive outline so that students are able to access material easily. And there's not any, they're not spending too much time searching for that assignment. They're able to find it easily. And then the other thing is feedback. We're going to be providing feedback to your students, each week, if not daily, to make sure that, if there's any questions, we're there to answer them. The other thing is just to have confidence in the fact that Henrico is more prepared than most districts for virtual learning. Students have had laptops, work on laptops every day in class. Lectures, many teachers already record lectures. They're already using resources like IXL Math. So much of what we're going to be doing virtually really will not change. And just remember, at the end of the day, we all have the same goal. That's ensuring that your child is successful in school, and that, we're keeping that love of learning alive. So the next thing I want to talk about would be just changes, challenges, and opportunities. We recognize that this virtual learning is going to be a big change to everyday life for not only our students, but you guys as well. With that change comes a couple challenges, but I think that those challenges can be met with your support at home in whatever capacity that is. However you can provide support, that's going to be helpful for us. We're not asking you to teach. We're not asking you to do your child's geometry homework. We have that part. We're going to be doing that. So in whatever capacity you can help at home is going to be beneficial. Remember, mistakes and struggles are okay. They're part of learning. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to make mistakes. We don't need to strive for perfection all the time. And I just think that we need to look at this as kind of an opportunity. This is time to reconnect with your kid, to sit down with them and see how their day was, and, maybe play a more active role in their education, learning what their needs are, so that you're able to help communicate that to teachers. This is also going to prepare them for the real world, for post-secondary education, which many of the colleges are online. And then I just think it's going to change how we view education as a whole. We're going to be doing more project-based learning instead of 20 multiple choice questions to see if we really know what we're learning in class. So that's all I have. Thank you so much. The next person that we are going to turn this over to is going to be Angela Rhodes, who is my wonderful collaborative teacher in geometry. So Angela, you're up.
All right. Hello, everyone. As Jamie said, we do work together on the geometry team. I'm a math teacher at Freeman High School. I'm sure there are lots of questions just from the family structure. So what does it mean, or what does it look like for your family? What does it look like it's going to be in your house? And so I get to bring you this perspective as a teacher, and then also as a parent who will have a kid at home also, and trying to manage her learning and also my teaching. And so we have outlined a few things in this bullet point, or in this slide, for you to see. Some of these things maybe you've already thought about, especially with dedicating a space. That was really important for us. That was something I had to learn when we did this in the spring. We just kind of popped up somewhere and hoped for the best. And so we have made sure to dedicate a clear space. And even though my child is in elementary, she's in first grade, it's one of the things that dedicating a space and setting the clear expectations about like what we're hoping for the day. And so Jamie and Mr. Marshall both touched on this a few moments ago, but that doesn't mean like striving for perfection. We're just saying that when we're talking about those expectations, we need some focus. We need to be able to push through. And so what that can look like is creating a space that's comfortable, but not so leisurely that we're forgetting what is needing to be taking place. And so making sure that in that structured space, if we need to eliminate some distractions, whether it's a phone, whether it's a TV, whether working with multiple people in one room together is a distraction, or if being solo is a distraction. So those are things as a family unit you all can put into place to decide if it's going to be helpful or not. Also determining, in my particular case, it is helpful for me to be in the room with my child when she is doing her learning because she's in first grade. Because your students or your children are high schoolers, this may be a conversation for you all to have with multiple check-ins. One of the other things, one of the really big things that we enjoy or that we try to do as teachers are asking our children questions instead of providing them with the solution. So as Jamie mentioned just a moment ago, just allowing them to kind of sit with it for a minute. Like there will be some conflict. There will be a little bit of like trying to figure it out, and just making sure that we are able to push through and just know that this will allow for some growth. This will help us prepare for the things that are going to come next in the chapters for us, so that we can make sure that learning is going to be in place. And so then on the next slide, we're going to be discussing how that is going to look for the multiple roles that parents are going to have. Some parents will be working from home, and you have to make that determination. And then some of you may be not working in the home. And so then you're like, well, how can I make sure that these things are set in place? I think that restructuring what your family norms, what their structures are when you spend time together as a family. When do you come together and everyone is allowed to just brain dump? When is everyone allowed to have their alone time? When is everyone able to prioritize your activities based upon what matters to your family? Again, we know that we, the teachers, are going to be able to provide the material, right? So we don't want you to feel that you have to be able to teach my geometry class or teach my trig class. We want to make sure that you all are basically providing the encouragement, providing the push. If you can dedicate a space, if you are able to collaborate with a teacher, if your child can't seem to reach their teacher in the way that they want to, and just making sure that you prioritize what will help your family succeed and what success looks like for you all. This will be new for all of us. We are all going to be figuring it out, but I think that having that structure as a family, if you all sit down and decide, hey, this is important to me that I can get this done. This is important that we can get this done. So determining what things need to be done independently, what things need to be done as a family, prioritizing that time, limiting your distractions, and just having that dedicated space. So the same way that students would know that math with Miss Rhodes, usually what happened in room 102, maybe they know now that the blue chair and the white desk in their house sitting in this particular room is now the space where they do their learning. And so building in those multiple breaks or whatever it need to be met for your child at home, and also for you as the parent, because you are wearing a different hat. You have one of our hats. So that's basically what we wanted to address in those slides, just how it looks from the family, how it looks from the multiple roles and the multiple hats that you'll be wearing, and just knowing that whenever you have questions, that there's a teacher, there's an admin, there's a support that you can reach out to. We're going to transition now to Ms. Stryker, one of our amazing history teachers at Freeman, and she's going to take it over now.
So I think it's Ms. Steele and then Ms. Stryker. Good afternoon, everyone. As mentioned before, I'm Beverly Steele, Assistant Principal, former Social Studies teacher at Freeman High School. And I'd like to just touch a little bit on the daily schedule, as well as some of the expectations that we're going to hold for your students as they engage in this new experience. Ms. Siokin, can you please click the sample schedule so I can just run through that really quickly. All right, so this is a sample schedule, kind of a sample of what our day-to-day will look like. It mirrors pretty closely what we're used to in the traditional setting, with, you know, first period being shorter than the other classes of the day. So first period is now slated for an hour. The other periods are slated for an hour and a half. We're still going to do directed study daily, which is 25 minutes of extended learning where students can get extra help. They can work on other assignments. We're going to have some social emotional learning lessons during some of those directed study periods. And so again, it mirrors pretty closely what we've done in the traditional setting. So with that in mind, what expectations do we hold for students as they engage in virtual learning? Well, first and foremost, you have to be there in order to learn. And so the expectations, just like in the regular setting, is that students are going to arrive to each class on time. So let's say first period is at 9 a.m. The teacher is going to log in at 9 a.m. to take roll, and students are expected to be there to answer when their name is called. Same thing for second period, all the way through seventh period. Being at home, there might be a tendency for students to wake up, roll out of bed, and go to class. Well, we're asking, again, to try to mirror the traditional classroom experience, that students adhere to the code of conduct. So make sure that the clothing that they wear to class is appropriate. It's something that would be acceptable in the traditional classroom setting. We're also asking, just as a way to monitor students, ensure that they're paying attention, see if they have questions, if they look confused, and be able to address some of the needs that they might have, that cameras be turned on. I know that many students sometimes feel uncomfortable seeing themselves on camera. Actually, I recently heard of a study where 60% of students said that the reason they don't turn on the camera is because they don't like looking at themselves. And so teachers are going to work with those students to find some ways around that, whether it's taking themselves out of the visual displays or other ways to get around that. But having the cameras on is going to be a requirement during classes. There are expectations in the traditional setting in terms of academic integrity. We don't want kids cheating. We know that it's going to be a lot easier to do in the online setting because the teacher's not there to monitor everything that they're doing. To get around some of that, we'll do a lot more project-based learning. But there are still going to be instances where students might be, tempted. The same expectations, the same consequences that are applied in the traditional setting will be applied in the online setting. Anything that's graded must be completed by that student. So they only get grades for work that they have actually done. They're expected to complete all lessons, including any lessons that are given in class, completed in class during the actual class period. And then just follow any guidelines that are provided by teachers when they're instructed to collaborate, work in group settings. The expectations that are outlined by teachers should be followed by the student in order for them to get maximum credit for the assignment. So this is all I have in terms of expectations. If you have any questions regarding this, you can post it and those will be addressed later in the Q&A sections. I'd like to hand it over now to Ms. Cabell to talk about some of the needs that our students might have during this period.
There we go. Thanks, Ms. Steele. I'm Christy Cabell. I am an exceptional ed teacher at Freeman. I teach in English 11 classes and also World History 1 this year. So I get juniors and freshmen. So we realize that the virtual setting may be seen as a challenge for some when it comes to providing individual attention. Obviously, not all students feel comfortable talking on camera. I mean, there are some adults that don't. So it may be difficult for teachers to gauge understanding sometimes. And so we wanted to make you aware of what faculty will be doing in an effort to reach and engage with your students, and also what you can do at home to support them. As you just saw on the sample schedule, class time will be broken up into different activities. There'll be time for independent work and also breakout sessions for small groups, and that will vary obviously depending on the assignment or activity. This is a chance for students to talk to their classmates, but also teachers will be rotating into these small groups and monitoring them, checking for understanding, providing specially designed instruction for students with IEPs and 504s, things that would be done in a normal classroom setting. Teachers will also be available during individual work time for questions or additional help as needed. We also have directed study time every day, as Ms. Steele just mentioned. For those new to DSF, we have termed this Freeman Focus. This is about 25 minutes for students to get either additional help from teachers or make up assignments. And for students with IEPs, case managers will be touching base with them and providing services according to their IEPs during this time as well. Teachers are being strongly encouraged to record lessons and material that they present to their students so that students can refer back to it and rewatch it if needed. So this is going to provide an opportunity for students to strengthen their understanding of the material and to hopefully go back and reinforce concepts that they weren't sure about. It is important for all stakeholders, including parents, teachers, and students, to be aware of individual learning styles and needs in a classroom. For teachers, a lot of that comes through creating relationships with our students, which is going to be more challenging than usual in this setting, but we're going to do our best to get to know our kids virtually. If your child tells you that they are struggling with how material is being presented, or if you see your child struggling, encourage them, preferably, to make the teacher aware that something is not working for them. Chances are they are not the only ones struggling. Our teachers are fantastic at presenting material multiple ways or altering assignments for students with disabilities, and they want the feedback if something isn't working. They want to work with your child and see them succeed. When it comes to learning and being productive, consider where in your home that will happen best for your child. Ms. Rhodes touched on this topic a little bit earlier. I have seen pictures on social media of parents creating workspaces for their children at home. It's usually not in their bedroom. It's definitely not in their bed. We know that everyone's environment is different and there may be constraints to that, but look for space in your home that could be repurposed into a space, workspace for your child. It may have to be the bedroom and that's fine, but consider how much space they'll need. They need at least as much space for a laptop and to be able to write around it. You may want to think about what seating works best for them. Is it a stand-up desk? Is it a bouncy ball? You may also want to consider what's in the background because they will be on camera for at least a portion of the class time. They need to have somewhere that is ideally not their bed to work. I have heard stories of students creating do not disturb signs or classes in session signs to post on their door to their workspace when they're not interrupted. They will need someplace quiet they can work so that distractions will be limited while working so that they, and also so they can talk to their teachers and classmates. Finally, this 90-minute block was new to us last year, and we were able to reorganize and reframe our lessons, and we will continue to modify and adapt through this virtual learning. As I mentioned before, material will be presented in multiple ways, as it is in a normal classroom, with videos and independent work. We heard about project-based learning. We are doing everything that we can to keep the students engaged. In addition to breaks between classes, teachers are also encouraged to be incorporating some movement breaks during class while transitioning to different activities. As parents, encourage your students to move during transitions and at lunch and other breaks. Maybe there's a chore or two they could do around the house, or maybe it's just taking a walk around the block. Movement will help them to refocus their attention. If they need a snack or something else to focus on during class, encourage that, but grab it prior to the start of class. Bottom line is, we want you to know that we are thinking about your students and what they each need. We need for you to think about it, and also to help our students think about what we can do to help them succeed. So now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Roberts.
Hey everyone, I am going to be talking to you guys about the use of technology. I teach World History 1 and World History 2, so I work primarily with freshmen and sophomores. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time this year teaching my students how to use the technology that we're going to be using in our classroom. But that also means that parents will have the opportunity to learn along with their students of how to access the technology that we will be using. So that means Schoology training is going to be coming from the county at some point for parents so that you are aware of how to use that platform to help your students at home best succeed. You can also install a school messenger app and create an account on your phone. That way that you can easily communicate with each of the teachers that your child has. And there is a link on the Freeman Hub for that. Make sure that you also create your parent portal account in PowerSchool. This way that you have access to your students' grades, their assignments, and can help them keep up with what they need to do. A big thing that we've been moving into recently through this digital learning this last semester and going into the school year is the use of social media. So a lot of teachers, including myself, have created professional accounts to use for a wide variety of reasons, whether that be updating students on assignments that are coming up that are due, providing just fun engagement that goes beyond the content that they learn in the classroom, but also as an extra communication piece that helps us meet students where they are, because social media is something that they're more likely to choose to do themselves. And it's just a fun platform to engage with our students in. I know another concern has been assessments and how we're going to combat making sure that our students meet what's in the honor code. So we will be using secure testing through Performance Matters, which is through PowerSchool. So if you have a student that has actually been at Freeman for a while, you might have heard something similar to this with the lockdown browser in Schoology that a lot of teachers have been using. It's very similar to that, but it's going to be a little bit more amped up just to make sure that we are making sure that students are using that honor code and we're able to assess them properly. With that being said, we are going to be moving towards more of a process and understanding model of assessment rather than just giving our students multiple choice questions, because yes, we want them to get to that end goal of knowing the answer to the questions that we're asking, but we want to focus more on the why and the how behind the content that we're presenting to them. So be expected to see tests that look more like that process and understanding piece rather than just multiple choice. And the last piece that I'm going to discuss is technical difficulties. Obviously, we're going to have a lot of those while we work out the kinks throughout this virtual learning, because again, as everyone has mentioned, we're all new at this, so it's not going to be perfect, but we're in this together, so we're going to figure it out along the way. And that means that we're going to have flexibility with independent graded assignments, teachers are going to be working on pre-recording lessons as well as recording lessons that we give live so that students can access them later. And just having an understanding that our students are going to have internet issues. Teachers are going to have internet issues. So it's going to go from both sides. And we just need to make sure that we're communicating properly and encouraging our students to communicate with us as much as possible so that we can help them as the best as we can. So that's all of the piece that I have, and I'm going to hand it off to Ms. Stryker.
Hey everybody, I'm going to talk a little bit about ways that we can help to reduce stress on our students during this time and also kind of monitor their stress levels as we're going through this. And one of the first ways that we can do that, and one that's really easy and really important for teachers to do during especially this first 9 weeks, are virtual check-ins. And we have a lot of different resources that we can use to make that happen via Schoology or Flipgrid videos or even discussion boards. So checking in with students also during office hours, more one-on-one. And this will help us monitor not only what they're learning educationally, where their struggles might be, but also does somebody seem extremely overwhelmed and do we need to reach out to them a little bit further? One of the ways that we can help reduce stress that you've probably heard people talk about quite a bit is through the practice of mindfulness. So trying to be really aware of your emotions in the present moment and not being terribly judgmental about those emotions, letting them come and go. And so it's really important to be able to identify what you're feeling, especially when you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, or anxious. And the more that you're able to identify that and take steps to mitigate those feelings, the easier it will be for you to realize, oh, I'm getting stressed, or your student is getting stressed, and take steps to be able to move past that. One of the examples that was touched on previously by Ms. Cabell for helping with movement and stress and things like that is saying, or is giving your student a chore. Perhaps they can go cut the grass, they can walk the dog, maybe they're going to do a load of laundry from start to finish, all the way to putting everything away. But just something to get them moving throughout the day, maybe moving during that break time, being aware of their body and saying, oh, maybe I need to get a snack, a drink of water, I need to just take a walk around the house, that sort of thing. All of that falls into the taking breaks. And maybe it's just stepping outside onto your porch for a minute, observing nature, kind of taking some deep breaths, moving through whatever is being particularly stressful in that moment. And for you as parents, the other thing to consider is being very flexible with your students. Pick your battles is probably a big one this year. Decide what is most important and how can I support my student through this moment. Giving everybody grace, your students, yourself, very important also as teachers as we make our way through this process. And lastly here, when to get additional help is huge. If you're seeing that your student is continuously struggling, you've tried some of our stress reduction tips, you're practicing mindfulness, they're taking breaks, they're cognizant of their physical body and its needs, whether it's hunger or sleep or whatever, and these things are just not helping anymore, please reach out to us, reach out to teachers, reach out to administrators and counselors. We are here to help. We want to help, and we can provide you with additional resources for outside help if that is something that your family needs. I think that I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Steele at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Stryker. So as we come towards the end of the presentation part of this, there are a few things that we wanted to highlight, a few important dates that are upcoming. So August 20th, which is this coming Thursday, this is a pretty important date for our rising ninth graders. In keeping with the Freeman tradition, we've always held a freshman orientation around this time to introduce our new students to their new school, have them meet faculty, and just kind of get a feel for the school. We've still tried to do that, but in a virtual setting this time around. So those of you that are freshman parents, make sure at 11 a.m. this Thursday, August 20th, that your freshmen log in to check out Freeman and all that it has to offer. Additionally, Henrico County Public Schools have been doing a series of town hall meetings with students where school board members sit down, field questions from students based on a variety of topics. And it's been a series of 3. So the third and final one will be happening on August 31st at 10 a.m. And a very important note, students, like I mentioned before, students are going to be required to have webcams turned on. Up until now, the webcams on the school issued laptops have all been turned off. In order to get those activated, students need to come to Freeman High School. We have a mobile help desk out there that's open right now. They're open Mondays and Wednesdays, 10:30 to 4:30. Tuesday, Thursdays from 8:30 to 4:30. And again, every student needs to come to school at some point prior to September 8th to get these turned on. We have one last, can we go to the next slide, please? One final thing before we head to the Q&A section are a few links. These links are available on the new Freeman Hub. It's called All Things DSF, or atdsf.com. This is where everything that you and your child will need to know to be successful at Freeman, how things work, instructions as to how to access resources, whether it's tutoring or computer resources. They're all housed on that site. Additionally, you'll have a link to the parent portal, which is what you use to check your students' grades, attendance, things like that. That's housed there. And then the Virginia Department of Education they'll be hosting a series of webinars, like providing back to school information in multiple different languages, that resource on that website as well. So we've come to the end of the presentation part of this evening. At this point, we will go to the Q&A section. You guys have been submitting questions as we've been going through this process. And so we'll head to those questions now and try to provide as much answers as possible. There are a number of questions on there. We'll try to get to as many as possible, but any question that doesn't get answered during the live session, we will answer in that document and post those responses to Freeman Hub, the same place where you submitted the questions. We'll have all questions answered and posted to the Freeman Hub. All right, are we good to go for the?
I think so, Ms. Steele. I think your internet is breaking up just a little bit, as is going to be a possibility in this environment. So we got to roll with the punches a little bit. So we are going to jump into our Q&A. So I'm going to ask our panel members to unmute their screens and jump in.
All right. All right, so as I mentioned before, participants had been submitting questions, and I'm looking at one from Mr. Andrew Ferguson that looks like a good place to start. And Mr. Ferguson asked, he said, there has been an emphasis that virtual learning will not resemble the virtual learning that occurred in the spring. Can you please review what the school feels was the problem with the spring and what has been done to rectify those problems for the fall? Mr. Marshall, I think that'll be a good one for you to start with.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I just love the teachers and walking us through that, but I'm excited about this question and answer session. We've got some good questions on our document. First of all, I think that our teachers did a tremendous job this spring of adjusting our entire curriculum on a dime in a weekend, completely changing their format. And if you remember the first week of virtual learning, which was March 17th-ish. I know that because there were still St. Patrick's Day decorations in my office when I got back to it in July. That first week, we had tremendous engagement. Our data shows that almost every student logged into Schoology and engaged with it. And one of the reasons for that, unfortunately, and you know, we're going to get to the love of learning and learning for its own sake, but one of the reasons for that was that work was graded. There was an expectation that it be done. There was no limitation really to how much, you know, would be required by teachers, and teachers were locked in for a week. And then we started to realize the fact that we were in the worst pandemic we've seen in modern times. And so we rolled back some of those expectations and changed course, which we always know can have an effect on adolescents. So I would say that we were very successful. We then adjusted to some new things, and our teachers did have some meaningful engagement. However, I wouldn't stand here and say that every student was learning to the degree that they're about to be. To me, we've identified by listening to parents, by talking with students, by listening to teachers who really wanted to have more engagement during that time. Some of the things that we've grow from that are expectations. You know, students are going to be expected to attend class. They're going to be expected to complete work, to engage with each other, and to learn and progress. And if they're not, you know, there's going to be immediate feedback, and you know, feedback that matters, we think, to students. So expectations are one. And then what I'm calling kind of the 4 cornerstones, controllable cornerstones of our year. The first is organization. We've got to be very organized. We lost too much time in the spring figuring out where to click, learning 20 different Schoology platform outlines, going into this calendar, that Schoology place. We're going to have some uniformity and organization to our lessons and to our year. The second is communication. We experimented with some communication platforms last spring that we're going to use this year, whether that's sending a video introduction to every student email address, which we did, or you know, weekly parent emails. I think we're going to see a lot of that, just kind of outlining what's going to happen in math class this week. Communication and organization are 2 of the kind of key cornerstones. The third would be feedback, especially with required new learning. Our due date was the same day that we had to close out our year. It didn't allow us to have that feedback, but by having regular due dates, not, hey, this is all due in 9 weeks, but as we go, the opportunity to provide meaningful feedback to grow through that, we think that would be tremendously helpful. And lastly is community building. We didn't think about or realize at first how much community building naturally happens in this building, whether that's a class coming together, a small group coming together, teacher building rapport with a student. So we're really going to be intentional about building rapport and community within the classroom, between students and teachers, between students in clubs, sports, other organizations. So those things are going to be vastly different. Organization, communication, feedback, and community building. Those are the kind of the first steps, and we'll grow from there. But we feel like if we get those right, with partnering with parents, we can have a really successful year, much more successful than the spring.
All right, thank you, Mr. Marshall. Our next question comes from Susan Rohr, and this one is, I think it's a question that many parents have because they have children with IEPs, students with disabilities, ESL students. I think that this is a question that goes across multiple different groups. What are you doing to support IEP students who need one-on-one help? Will teachers be present to provide assistance to those students during the normal school hours? Mr. Sanders, I think that might be one you can tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. So hello, everyone. Good evening. I'm Tim Sanders, administrator over the Ex-Ed department and math departments at Freeman High School. We have been working all summer to really kind of make sure that our students with exceptional needs in our building are getting everything that they're supposed to be getting. I know we were fast turnaround in March, and we were kind of scrambling to get things in place to make sure that all of our students were supported. But we found a lot of successes and a lot of pitfalls that we have hopefully worked out in the last couple months to support those students. Our case managers did an awesome job in the spring with getting in touch with parents and being on top of students weekly, if not daily, with making sure that they were turning in work and getting everything done that they needed to get done. In the fall, we're diving into really a lot more purposeful instruction and teacher-driven materials that maybe were not so much in the spring, where students were just kind of expected to do a lot more of the work on their own. The exceptional ed team is well aware of the needs of the students in the building and are very taught well on their caseloads. They know them inside and out and are preparing lessons right now to make sure that those students are going to be successful in the collaborative environment and the self-contained settings. My team is going through each of the IEPs in the building to make sure that we're making sure that the one-on-ones are getting their services taken care of once they start the school year off, and making sure that the small group instruction is happening for all of our students. What's nice with this actual virtual platform is that we have a lot of tools at our disposal that allow us to do a lot of small group instruction for our students. Freeman is a pretty crowded place for some of you guys who know that, and classrooms can be tight and it can be tough to break students into small groups and get them working more intentionally on the one-on-one things. The virtual platform provides us the opportunity for case managers to really work in the small groups, especially one-on-one environment that we think we're going to have tackled and mastered here coming into the fall. My job here, along with my team, is to make sure that you guys are communicated to in the next couple weeks, and making sure that your students feel that they are getting everything they need to be getting to make sure that they're successful here in the fall. A lot more information will be coming out to parents about the IEPs in the XED world. So keep an eye out for that stuff, but we are really working hard to make sure that you guys are supported, and that you guys know that your students are also going to be supported.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. This next question is about the breakdown of the actual class period. And this one asks, how much time per class will teachers be required to actually teach? Is there a minimum range? And what is the expectations for teachers and students for what this in-person instruction time will be? So how much time will students actually have a teacher teaching them? How much time will they be doing independent work?
I can maybe start that one, but I'd love anybody else can jump in there with bringing their expertise. Students will be learning for the duration of the class period. So our schedule, which I sent last Sunday, linked from the Sunday communication, outlines that first period is from 9 to 9:55, et cetera. During that time period, students will be learning and teachers will be teaching. What I want to make sure we don't confuse the word teaching with is direct instruction. I think there's this thought that for a teacher to be teaching effectively, it's this: a person with information saying it verbally to someone else with information. I certainly hope, whether it was in 2019 or 2020, or for the next 10 years, we never have a school day where a student is just being talked at by teachers through direct instruction. What we want to see in our hallways, or now in our virtual classes, is students doing, working together, collaborating, creating, reading, writing, thinking. So that will happen for the duration of the class period, with a teacher available to pull alongside them and help. As far as mandating max and min for that, we don't think that's pedagogically the right thing to do. For one, classes and levels are so different. I do think a math class needs some direct instruction to explain how to factor a polynomial. I think I would probably need to know that directly. But I don't know that an art class has direct instruction the entire time. Students are engaging and creating, in an upper level art class. So it's going to vary from class to class and from level to level. And it should, pedagogically, it should, just for the sanity of our students. I don't want to listen to a Zoom call for 7 hours straight. And it will allow for, we're hoping, the type of learning we've always wanted and we're always striving for, which is deeper learning, engaging with the material, rather than just sitting and passively listening. Because to be honest with you, if that's what we expect students to do, we're going to lose them on the first day. And maybe I don't necessarily blame them. Anybody else can jump in, even teachers who are kind of wrapping their heads around what their lesson plans would look like. Anybody else on the panel is welcome to jump in with your thoughts on that. As usual, I've talked for so long, there's nothing left to say. Okay.
I think you hit it all. You covered it all. I don't know if we have much to add to that. That was great, Mr. Marshall.
All right, that's my cue to stop talking. 10-4.
All right, so we've had several questions about, I think, what we all refer to as the social emotional part of this learning experience, and the fact that students usually thrive on the relationships that they form with teachers and peers. Most of the questions are asking, how will those be fostered in the virtual environment? I think we do have a social emotional learning expert on our panel, Dr. Bitsko. If you'd like to jump in to talk a little bit about that, and if someone else can fill in something Freeman specific on the back end, that would be great.
Yeah, maybe the importance, Dr. Bitsko, of it, and then we'll kind of follow up how we're going to tackle.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say just a quick piece as a psychologist, but as a parent of 2 Freeman students this year, because I think the first answer is it's going to be very difficult. Of course, we can say it's going to have to look differently because of the virtual learning setting. We would certainly hope that the teachers are going to be able to connect in some ways. We know that, as was already said in a little bit earlier in this presentation, that hopefully some of the kids are going to have some social engagement from a very physically safe, socially safe distance, whether those are pods and some other ways to do that. I mean, that there's just so much of that has to happen, but I really do believe there can still be a connection that the students can have to the teacher, to Freeman, to the Freeman family, to what the larger mission is and why they're doing this and who they're doing it with. So I think that is something which is still going to be there. I think it is going to play into the parents' role to figure out what our specific kids' needs are. They might have certain strengths in a lot of areas. And of course, it's always probably best to figure out what strengths they have. And then we keep focusing on that. If there are some areas where they really need some help and support, to be able to guide that, not only in the home setting, in the neighborhood. I would say this, and I'll say this with all the folks here, if you have concerns and if you want Freeman, either teachers, faculty, or the admin to be able to help in some way, that's what all these resources are for as well. So you don't have to go it alone while you're trying to meet these needs.
So I'll jump in terms of some strategies that some Freeman families can take or use. In speaking with some families, they're planning on having their kids schedule their lunches together. I mean, the whole school is going to have lunch at the same time. And so I would encourage your student to get with their friends and say, okay, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, kind of have those scheduled lunches. That's something that even us as adults should be trying to do. With the counseling team, I put at least once a week on our calendars for us to at least try to have 15 minutes where we eat lunch together. So we have that connection. And I think, we're all missing that connection. We know our kids are. And so I think even just having that common lunchtime is going to be huge for the kids so that they can schedule those FaceTime or Google Meet or whatever other really cool platform that the kids are using that we don't know about yet, is going to be crucial for them to have those connections with each other. And it is going to be hard to form those connections when you are new to a teacher and new to a school, but it can be done. Ms. Meadows and I, one of our school counselors, we've been registering new students all summer and we've been doing them virtually. And at first I thought it was going to be really awkward and really hard to form that rapport and have it be comfortable. And it hasn't been that bad. We're talking appointments of welcome to Freeman, this is how things are going to work, but it hasn't been as awkward or as difficult as I initially thought it would be. So it can be done. We're just going to have to try harder than we normally would.
One of the, I was going to jump in with a couple of Freeman specific things. We're strongly encouraging our teachers to build into their lesson plans 2 things. One, a moment of community building. So you're going to see some lessons with some, goofy icebreakers or cheesy, get to know you activities. And I say those things because I always thought I was too cool for them. They're flat out necessary. Our students need to connect in order with the teacher in order to accept meaningful feedback from that teacher and with each other. There's obviously that adolescent need for connection. So you're gonna see some of that, and our teachers are getting training on that this summer. We also know that students need that social outlet in class. We do that in our lesson planning already, right? In an hour-and-a-half lesson, there may be some group work where they might talk about what's happening this weekend for a second before they dive into the Shakespearean sonnet they're looking at. That's okay because that social outlet's important. In fact, we think that the social aspect of school is one thing that's going to get them to the table. It's one reason they're excited to come to school. Those that are excited to walk in our building, it's because they're going to see their friends. And we're looking for ways to recreate that virtually. I love the idea of eating lunch together. I'm going to propose that for our teachers because we just crave that exact thing. The other piece to socio-emotional learning is we have to directly give our students the tools to self-regulate, to be in tune with their own selves and their own kind of emotional states. And we can't just assume that they know how to do it. We teach math, science, art, history. We need to teach how to, how to ask for help, how to what mindfulness is, how to build meaningful relationships. So we're looking for ways, exploring ways right now, actually, to build that into our curricula, so that we're not just teaching reading, writing, arithmetic, but teaching some skills that, man, are so important right now. They're always important, but right now, those social-emotional skills are just absolutely important.
And if I could hop in just for 30 more seconds, do you mind?
No, go ahead.
I've heard some really good suggestions as far as, don't try to solve their problems. You have to really try to be there, and you have to kind of ask questions. Ms. Rhodes had a lot of really great things to say about that. And I would say that slide was especially really good. But certainly we also want to know how to listen to them. One of the things that I do, and believe me, I don't do it with my own kids because I'm not a psychologist with my own kids, but the thing you sometimes do with clients, if they're worried, if they're scared, I would always say, okay, so worry has 3 legs to it. It's either our thoughts, our body's response, or our emotional reaction. So as parents, if you obviously know your kid very well, you know them best. And if you're figuring out what they're struggling with, you can have that in the back of your head, like, are they overthinking this? Is their body kind of responding so strongly that we need to focus on that? Or are they just emotionally not knowing what to do with it? And that's what I can pay attention to, just as a way for parents just to be able to be parents, right? We're all asking for how can teachers be teachers? And we're about to find out in a few weeks that yes, they still can be. And we're going to be happy with that. And parents can still be parents. And then we're really going to have to share this load as the students keep taking the ownership.
Thank you. We are running down in time. This was slated from 6 to 7, but I'll throw in a question about tutoring because we have several that have been submitted regarding tutoring. Will there be a list of tutors provided? Will teachers be available after school or before school to provide tutoring help? What kind of guidance will Freeman be providing to students that need additional help?
I think that stays the same as it does in the regular year, and anybody wants to jump in, we can. But we built into our day that Freeman focus. There was talk of actually, do we eliminate that or not? That common moment when we're all off, where students are free in their schedule, as is a teacher, to get help directly from the teacher. And we set that up by appointment. So you can go to that that science teacher you didn't understand something that happened in class. You can sign up for an appointment to work directly with them, and that they're on contract at that time as well. Our teachers are phenomenal and tend to stay after school, come in early to work with students by request. Not everybody's in a place in their life where they can be, childcare and things like that. But I anticipate that continuing to go on. Of course, there's private tutoring out there in the world as well. School counseling has been able to provide some lists there. If we reach out directly to them, I think they'd be most helpful.
Yeah, so we have an internal list. We kind of rely on tutors sending us their information. We are not in a position to seek out private tutors, but when the information comes to us, we do maintain an internal list. So if you are interested in that, you can just email your student school counselor and they can send that to you. I believe the National Honor Society tutoring is also still going to happen this year. That's a really strong peer tutoring program that Freeman has. Last year, it was phenomenal seeing it happen in the library during Freeman Focus. And I know that our NHS, National Honor Society sponsors are working on, morphing that into this virtual learning world. So we will still have those peer tutors as well this year.
A pretty important question. We talked about the importance of parents working as partners with us in this process. And what they can do to support their students throughout the day. Well, there's a question about parents who work outside of the home and how they can support their child's virtual learning. How can those parents who are not physically there with their student throughout the day still work to ensure that their kids are getting everything that they should be getting and doing everything that they should be doing during the day?
I asked a couple of parents on the call what they plan to do, but one of the first steps is just monitoring communication, right? We're, as I think Ms. Rhodes said, we got geometry. We've got that. In fact, from, start of class to end class, we'll have things for them to do. And we're going to provide feedback both to the student and through things like Power School, Schoology, so a parent can kind of check in to see if it's happening. And I know the fine balance between kind of letting go and putting ownership on a student, but I do think there's some healthy monitoring that can go on, and our staff will be expected to provide that feedback to see, are they learning? Are they progressing well? Reaching out if there's pitfalls, but also just using things like grades in Power School as an indicator if we're on track for parents. So most of the people on this call are working parents that are working, thinking about how to navigate that. And the first step is just monitoring and checking in. How was school today? What did you learn? Tell me what you did, things like that. I actually see an opportunity for more interaction in this moment and going forward between students, parents, and teachers. Because it used to be we had this obsession with getting everybody into the building. You had to take off work and the person here, and we had to wait till the teacher was done with class. The prevalence of platforms like this mean, if we've got a concern or maybe even a praise, we can say, hey, let's jump on a Zoom or a Google Meet with your parents, with the student. Let's talk about this great thing you just did or this concern we have going forward. I do see there's some opportunities there to work with working parents, as most of our parents are. Anybody else want to add to that?
Yes, I will jump in as the parent of a high schooler myself. I echo what you are saying, Mr. Marshall. I will be doing those things myself. I'll be looking for communication from my child's teachers. I will be expecting that, and I will be using that and her grades in Power School and checking in with her on, how things are going, what's happening. She usually is pretty open anyway about that stuff, but that is exactly what I will be doing and using to communicate with her and also with teachers if I find that things aren't progressing as they say they should be.
All right, thank you guys. It's 7:03. I know that we have one last thing that we would like to share with you guys on the back end. We still have a number of questions that we don't have time to answer in this live session, but I promise you that every question that has been submitted, we will respond to, and we'll post the document containing the answers in on the Freeman Hub, the same place where you went to submit the question. So if your question didn't get answered in this live session, all hope's not lost. We'll answer those and post them on the Hub for you with the answers that you're seeking. Mr. Marshall, would you like to jump in and close us out?
Sure thing. Thanks for moderating, and to our panel, I would love to talk about this for many more hours, but we do want to honor everybody's time. But just thank you for giving of your time. Almost everybody on the call is volunteering their time tonight to lend some expertise. So I'm just very grateful to work with people that and work around people that know the moment in time and what it calls for right now. That we have a tremendous challenge ahead of us, but that if there's any school in the country set up to succeed here, I honestly believe that Freeman, with our community support, with our unbelievable faculty, with our supportive district, with our talented and resilient students, are situated to do just that. We talk about how we're going to I hear people say we're going to survive this. We'll get through it. We're not about that, and we don't intend to just survive it or get through it. We intend to build great leaders and learners, world-class leaders and learners, in fact. And that's our mission. That's where we're headed. And we're going to use this tool, a virtual environment, to do it, just like we used our physical building to do it in the past. But we're going to keep our eyes focused on doing exactly that. And when it's over, when we are sitting at graduation next June in the Siegel Center, packed around a lot of people, and we say, what a crazy way we started this year. Man, did we learn how to persevere? Man, did our students learn how to do things on their own? And look at all those opportunities, those new skills that we learned. We took on something hard, a challenge, and we're successful. And when we're having those conversations and looking back at this moment, that's going to be an even greater time for the Freeman family. So we're going to close here out of our panel and chat. We'll wrap with a quick video. Thank you all for attending. And please reach out to this team, to me, to anybody in this building as we work together to help our students this year. Everybody have a great night and take care.
Thank you so much for being here this evening. As always, it's a team effort, and we are excited as a faculty to welcome your students back. We're working hard, we're getting ready, and we will see you all soon.
Thanks for attending the workshop. Looking forward to working with you and your students as we embark on this exciting school year.
Hey, it's Mrs. Braun here saying thanks for participating. We're working real hard to get things ready, and we're looking forward to working with you and your students this year. Hope to see you soon.
Welcome back to Freeman Parents. It's going to be a wild and weird year, but we're excited to make it a great year for your students still.
Thank you for attending and welcome to the Freeman family. We're really excited about the changes this year. It's a new time for growth and learning, and it's going to be really good. So we got this.
Welcome parents to the 2020-21 school year. It clearly looks different, but I need for you to know that I'm not only here for your child, but also here for you. And together, we will definitely make it this school year. Bye for now. Gretchen Sweat.
Thank you for tuning in and for supporting your students. We got this. Say it.
Thank you.
Freeman parents, we've been working all summer to get ready for this upcoming virtual learning. So if you're ready to have your kitchen table turned back into a one-room classroom, we're right there with you. We're ready and we can do this.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the new school year. This school year is not going to look like it normally does, but a few things are going to be the same. Your teachers have been working hard to make sure that we've learned new skills to make this as easy as possible for parents and students. We are going to keep the same level of learning that we always do in the classroom, just in a new setting. So we will work through the bumps in the road together, but we are going to be able to do this.
From my family to yours, we got this, Freeman.
Hello, my name is Julie Ashe. Welcome to tonight's program. I hope you and your student have a wonderful year.
Hi Freeman families, I hope you're doing well. I can't wait to see you all for this exciting school year.
Hey guys, it's Miss Claire. Hope you had a wonderful summer. I'm super excited about the new school year. I can't wait to see you all soon.
Hola, soy señora Carol. Gracias por participar en este taller. Tengo mi aula virtual lista y estoy preparada para un año escolar fantástico. Gracias. Adiós.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Kaplan, one of the librarians. Follow us on Instagram at DSF Library.
Thanks so much for attending. I've got my virtual classroom set up and ready to go. Looking forward to an awesome start to the school year.